Action.
Welcome to another episode of Filmmakers Focus. I'm Doc Kennedy, and this is a special occasion. This is my first time ever recording an episode in person. I have with us today the president of SAG-AFTRA Seattle branch.
Seattle local.
Seattle local.
Yeah. We used to call them branches before the merger.
Oh, okay.
Now we call them locals.
My bad. And
No, not a problem.
Okay. So Rik's got an extensive history in the filmmaking community. He's worked a lot of commercial stuff, including some films, and I'll let him talk about that. But I just want to welcome our special guest, Rik Deskin.
Thanks, Doc. So, I got into SAG before it was SAG-AFTRA on a commercial, and that was during the time that Washington State had no TV production going on, hardly any feature film production, because the rug had been pulled out from under us because Vancouver had initiated their incentive, and we had no incentive at that time. But nevertheless, I joined on commercials and continued to work on commercials and corporate educational and in various short films and modified low-budget films, and that was all before the incentive. After the incentive, as you probably know, is 10 years old. It's actually a rebate, and it's from KeepFilmInWashington.com is the campaign. Washington FilmWorks is both the film office and the overseer of the incentive, which is actually a rebate. Yeah, so I've been doing various projects since then. You know, I've kind of lost count of the amount I've done so far, but I've done a ton of short films, and they're all on my IMDb profile. Most notably, though, was a feature film called The Standard, which was shot on Whidbey Island back in 2006, debuted at the Seattle Film Festival, and then went on to 4 other festivals, and then somehow got lost. Not really sure what happened to it after that, but it was a nice project to get called in on, and it was a full day of work for me. At most, on any project, I've only worked 2 days. This year was like one of the jobs was a 2-day job. It was the first time I worked on a project for 2 days, which compared to working on a TV series, my friend Russell Hodgkinson is one of the guys on Z Nation. He's a series regular. He gets to work every day, and that's the gold right there, to be able to have that kind of job. So I'm still working my way towards that.
That's awesome. The people that we have listening to this show, Rik, there are a lot of indie filmmakers. There's a lot of indie filmmakers in our community. When we hear SAG, we kind of go, ugh, that's going to be, and just think, that's going to be expensive. What's your first response to that?
My first response is you guys should be using SAG-AFTRA agreements specifically on short films because it doesn't cost anything to have an actor involved. The rate is a deferred rate. The day rate for an ultra-low budget film, which you would have to pay actors on, is $125 a day. Plus, there's also pension and health, so it works out to be around $150 a day. But for any low-budget filmmakers that are doing, unless they're doing a feature film, they're probably doing a short film. And if they're doing a feature film and they're not paying anybody at least $150 a day, then I question why they're investing into a feature film. But regardless, the SAG-AFTRA agreements, especially for the short film, is so easy. I've done so many of them, both as an actor and as a producer, and we've done them with 48-hour film festivals. They're literally a page. It's a page of paperwork, okay. And the process has been streamlined over the years. So the process we have today is night and day compared to what was in existence 10 years ago.
Well, walk us through that real quick.
Yeah.
You know what? I love that 48-hour example. So we want to do that. We want a SAG actor. What's the process?
Well, the process with the 48-hour film festival is that they've got an agreement. It's a blanket agreement that covers anything, any short film. All the producer needs to do is to sign, and it's literally a one-page document.
Wow.
There's probably like 3 pages of the contract, but it's 1 page to sign. So
Okay. Wow.
it's less than a half an hour to read over it and say, yeah. And by doing that, it opens up your casting pool, because then you're not only using non-union actors. And by using a union actor or union actors, we're not saying that you can't use non-union actors. We're just saying, hey, there's a bigger casting pool that you're not availing yourself of.
Yeah. And to be honest, we're really limiting ourselves from some of the more experienced talent.
Yeah.
Talk about becoming president. I mean, we're going to dance around here a little bit, talk about some different areas, but how do you go from just joining the union and then deciding that you want to take on this extra role?
Well, that wasn't my decision making in the beginning. When I just joined in 2003, but I knew that I wanted to know more about my union, especially having already been working various non-union projects before. And I was basically tired of being exploited. So I was tired of waiting for checks to come, and the rates were lower than the union rates. So in order for me to find out more about my union, I began volunteering. I volunteered on a committee. My first committee was the elections committee of 2004. There were several of us that were called in to go down to Olympia to talk to various legislators, and in the car we talked about, well, what about a film incentive? Why don't we have it? And one of the people in that car was Lance Rosen, who eventually became one of the founders of Washington Filmworks.
Okay.
But back to what got me into the political side of the union. 2006, I attended an Equity meeting. Equity is the stage actors union. And I joined Equity basically 2 years after I joined SAG. They needed volunteers for the Equity Liaison Committee, and I was recommended by Jim Gall, who was the president of SAG at that time, but he was also an Equity member. He goes, I know Rik's involved. He's very knowledgeable. I think he would be a good person for this committee. So that was my first political committee. Later that year, I was then asked to join the SAG board as a board member, because one of the former board members that I was replacing had to leave the board.
Okay.
So I then, in that same year, I was then a board member and was basically a board member for SAG until 2007. I was asked if I was interested in being president at that time. And this was after several people were asked, and they were like, well, I don't know. They were very... when the question came to me, I was like, yes, I'd love to. And that, I was appointed president for 2 years in that time, 2007 to 2009.
Okay.
After that, I was defeated in a re-election campaign, but I was asked to be back on. And then I became vice president again, and then SAG merged with AFTRA in 2012. And I was vice president until I wasn't again. Then I was a board member, and then I ran for the presidency in 2015. So I've only been president for a year and a half.
Okay.
But I won with a very large margin, because now people know me, and so. Yeah. For me, it's been rewarding, because I understand the contracts, I understand how they work, I understand how everything is connected with the Washington State Film Incentive, and there's also a national perspective that I'm also part of. So it has opened my eyes, both politically and as a performer, because it's a very large world out there. It's not just, let's make this short film. There's tons of other stuff going on, and how do we fit into that? That's what I'm always looking for.
Okay. So on that, how do we fit into that? What's been some of your moves to help Washington grow?
Well, that's an in-process question, because have embarked on a campaign for Keep Film in Washington. It's keepfilminwa.com, and I'm one of several people that are part of this, and you're going to be seeing a lot more. And once the legislative session starts up on Monday. We're bound and determined to both renew the fund. The fund sunsets in June of this year, and increase it. And I see us. My goal is to get us to a point where we have more than 3 shows shooting in the state.
Yeah.
Right now, we've got one show shooting in the state. That's Z Nation. And when I got here in the 90s, there were 3 shows shooting in Seattle. Mm-hmm. So I want to get us to that point and beyond. So that's just me basically talking to various people, talking to my senator, talking to my representatives, and then also talking to the whole state legislature about why film and TV production it's a green revenue. Yeah. It's a 10-to-1 investment. The ROI is basically 10-to-1.
Well, and that's what I don't understand is like Business 101 says this is a great thing.
Yeah.
What's been the holdup?
The holdup has been basically they've been concerned about McCleary. McCleary is this educational thing that has nothing to do with us. And the last 2 years we've gone down there and talked to them. They all like us. They all appreciate what we do in the industry. And but it wasn't our turn.
Okay.
Because we weren't up for renewal. And our legislature likes to work on crisis mode.
Okay.
So now this year is going to be crisis mode. And we are bound and determined to both renew and increase it. Last year, we left $107 million on the table because our cap had been exhausted in January.
Wow.
And our cap right now is $3.5 million annually, which is the 5th smallest in the country. Huh. The only one of the smaller ones is Maryland, and they have House of Cards, and that's their one TV show.
Yeah.
Of course, they're a much smaller state, but still, I think film production across the country would be helped by having states with strong incentives, because ultimately we're trying to prevent film and TV from going to Vancouver.
Yeah, sure.
I love Vancouver. I love the product they put out, and they've got a really well-built infrastructure, but that's jobs in Canada. That's not jobs in Washington State or in the United States. Yeah. So it basically comes down to fighting for jobs in our state.
Yeah, that's it, too. Yeah. It creates jobs. It does so much that's positive. And that's what's blown my mind. So I hear about states popping up like Ohio.
Right.
What the heck, Ohio?
That's where the Avengers was shot.
And there you go.
Yeah.
But the incentives, they were there.
They were there.
That's where they're going to go.
Well, right now, New York, California, and Georgia are the 3 biggest production hubs.
Yeah.
New York had 91 TV shows shooting as of November 18th. We had 1. Yeah. And if we doubled or tripled what we're doing, that would be it would be huge for us in the state, and it would be a fraction of what New York has and a fraction of what LA has. But it's possible, it's doable, and there are so many TV shows that are set in Seattle and shot in Vancouver or shot elsewhere, and I would love to see those shows shot here that are set here.
Oh, yeah.
Especially,
I love our state. I mean, we have everything to offer.
Oh, yeah.
We have the mountains, the desert, the city, the ocean. There's no excuse.
There's so much natural beauty here, and it's untapped because the film and TV industry is an incentive game. They're always trying to get an incentive, and that's where they're going to set up shop.
Well, they're a business too, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
They want to save where they can.
Yep.
So if they can create Seattle somewhere else that's going to be less costly, they'll do it.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, of course, is Keep Film and Wah.
Okay.
So with Keep Film and Wah, we've got a website, keepfilmandwah.com, which everyone should go to, whether they are a filmmaker, actor, civilian, whatever they are. If they want to help our state do better, they've got to go there and sign and share the petition. And then March 13th is Film Day in Olympia, and that's a great opportunity for everyone to meet their senators and their representatives, and you go in groups. You're not alone. We've got talking points. It's a very fun day. I've done it several years now. I highly recommend it. It's March 13th. Get that day off if you work, and if you're, make yourself available. Because I think it's an all hands on deck situation, especially this year, since this year is, they're going to determine if we're renewed or not.
Yeah.
And if there is no incentive.
What is the timeline on that renewal?
The time, it's basically June 30th is the deadline.
That's it.
So we've got funds. We got funds for this year for 2017, but it's going to be exhausted this month. So if we in the session is going to be a long session. The session is expected to go as late as August or September. So we might not see it renewed until then.
Okay.
But if it gets renewed, when it gets renewed this year, that'll be a good thing. And we want to renew it at an increased level.
Yeah.
Because the increased level is what we're looking for. Right now, with our tax rebate, the incentive, it can only support one TV show.
Yeah.
That's it. That takes up 51% of the budget. The other 49% goes to various commercial projects and low-budget film projects, modified low budgets, ultra-low budgets that apply and win.
So basically, right now, it's all going to Z Nation.
Well, 51% of it's going to Z Nation.
Yeah.
Which is good because that's an employer.
Yeah, for sure.
They work several months throughout the year. They employ a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
and I love that they're utilizing the other half of the state too.
Yeah.
They're for those of you that don't know, they shoot a majority in Spokane.
Well, that's somewhat true. They actually this last season, they were shooting stuff up in Index, Washington, and in Bremerton, and they've actually
they're branching out.
They've totally branched out.
Awesome.
So it's been great seeing them do that for the third season. For the fourth season, we don't know. We don't even know if they're going to be filming here.
Okay.
Because they haven't announced it yet.
Oh wow. Little stressful, I'm sure, for those involved.
Right.
So let's turn this for just a sec here. I want to take it from the actor's point of view.
Okay.
So me as an independent actor, and let's say that I have this desire to look into becoming a SAG member. What would be the steps that you'd recommend?
Well, becoming a SAG-AFTRA member, what I would recommend is basically not refusing any work that comes your way. Not refusing any union work. There's a problem with actors in our area that they're concerned that if they join the union, they're not going to work again.
Yeah,
that's not true.
Yeah.
What is true is that when they work, they're going to get paid the way they should be paid, and they're going to get paid timely, and they're also going to get benefits and perks and all this extra stuff. So what I would recommend is basically, right now the easiest way to join SAG-AFTRA is by doing a SAG-AFTRA new media series or new media project. And that's something I just found out yesterday, that the low-budget new media projects are still, they can be deferred. Okay. So you can defer the rate. There's no minimum on that particular contract except that they recommend that you follow whatever your state's minimum wage laws are.
Okay.
So that's like the easiest way, and that agreement basically makes you eligible to join. And to join, you need to have either 3 background vouchers. Don't do background unless it's commercial, because TV and film are not in background jurisdiction up here.
Okay.
So SAG-AFTRA does not have jurisdiction over background in TV and film. On commercials and corporate educational, otherwise, if you're joining as a principal, then you only need to work for 2 times. So doing one on a new media, doing another one on a modified low budget and above film. So ultra low budget, you can't get eligibility, but you can get paid. If you're a SAG-AFTRA member, you can get paid the $125 a day.
Okay.
Short films, you don't get eligibility. You just, if you're working with SAG-AFTRA people, there's going to be it's going to be a notch above, because they have to be worked no more than 8 hours unless the filmmaker intends to pay them overtime. And so basically scheduling has to happen, and then they have to have breaks, and that kind of sets the tone for the whole set.
Okay.
Because you don't want to have divided breaks and people doing that when other people are still working. But to join, that's what I would recommend.
So, pardon my ignorance on this. What exactly qualifies as new media?
New media is anything that is released on the internet.
Okay.
So, like the web series I did several years ago, that was a new media series.
Okay.
Basically, the agreements are made on where the first use is going to be. So if your first use is going to be a film festival, then you're going to go with a short film agreement or an ultra low budget. It's tiered it's a budget tier. So depending on what your budget is, that'll determine what contract you'll be working under. But new media, it's all over the place. I mean, we've got the high level subscription video on demand, which is not the new media agreement, but it's like the Marvel series on Netflix. And that stuff is basically TV level budgets. But new media projects like Journey Quest, that started off as a new media project. Now they're working at a TV budget level. You just got to find a group of people that are willing to, do it as a new media project and do it as a SAG-AFTRA new media project.
Okay, that makes sense. So, looking at this coming year for you, Rik, what's biggest on your radar as far as an actor and as far as SAG-AFTRA president?
Well, I've already had a voiceover audition this year, this last week.
Awesome.
So I'm hoping to hear something about that. But beyond that, what I'm hoping to do is actually book TV work. Awesome. It's like TV has been the one thing that I've not been able to get to. I've had a first right of refusal on Grimm, which was so close. It was so close. And I've had several callbacks for Z Nation, and I just want to book TV show. And so booking a co-star or a guest star role is my goal.
Well, this has been awesome, Rik, and I really appreciate you taking the time to travel down here. I love doing this in person.
This is fun.
Great. Yeah. And so how can people get in touch with you?
They can find me very easily on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. All at R-I-K. I spell my name R-I-K. There's no C. Deskin, D-E-S-K-I-N. Follow me. Feel free to message me. If you know people, if you are friending me or whatever, and you know people I know, I'll probably friend you. If you don't know anybody that I know, there's a lot of mutual friends throughout our society, then I will question that. So,
gotcha. Well, I appreciate you coming on again, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Doc.
Wow, that was awesome. Thanks so much to Rik for taking the time to come down and meet with me. We had a great time recording. We got to visit a little bit after. And I'll tell you what, the time that he took to come down, it wasn't a short trip. It took him a little while to get there. And him being willing to do that, he knew that being a guest on Filmmakers Focus could help spread the word of keeping film in Washington, which is one of his top initiatives, something that's important to both of us, and his commitment as president of SAG-AFTRA Seattle Local. So I want to encourage you all to head on over to filmmakersfocus.com, look up Rik Deskin, and you're going to find a link in the show notes that will take you straight to the petition for Keep Film in Washington. And I want to encourage you all to sign that. It only takes a minute. Make that happen, because that could eventually be a job for you. Really, it really could. So treat it that way. So I encourage you to do that. Head on over to Filmmakers Focus, look up Rik Deskin, share this episode with people you know who could benefit from this. I know there's a lot of them out there. And I just appreciate you all being willing to do this, take the action steps, listening to this podcast. So appreciated. You sharing this show means a ton to me. God bless. Go and grow.